Welcome to the Esoteric Beat book review. Today I'm going to talk about Conciatore, a book about the life and times of an Italian alchemist and glass blower in the early modern period. Now, this book is pretty neat, highly recommended if you're interested in the kind of cutting edge of alchemy in history of science. We get to learn all about this guy who was a glass blower and an alchemist. And, for my purposes, I'm really interested in the intersection of artisanal culture and alchemical culture. How did this guy get his education in alchemy? Um, he's like part of the church, but alchemy isn't really part of the, university curriculum, not really necessarily something that's easy to go get an official education in. So our author, uh, Paul Engle, does an admirable job digging into the sources. Now, this is one of the things about the book that makes it difficult for the faint of heart because you're going to have to wade through a whole lot of footnotes. There's a very deep bibliography, and you're not necessarily going to get kind of a step by step beginning introduction to history of science scholarship, and so might be a little bit difficult to follow the argument, but he is citing some of the cutting edge scholars in alchemy, such as Lawrence Principe, Bruce Moran, William Newman, and also kind of hot, exciting new scholarship by young scholars like Jennifer Rampling. So very good on the alchemy stuff. You're going to get a deep dive into the Medici history and learn a little bit about alchemy in the Medici court. I'm going to go ahead and read the back cover for you. So who was Antonio Neri? Venture into the mysterious world of a late Renaissance priest, alchemist, and glassmaker. Not a fictional character, but a real flesh and blood man. Antonio Neri plied his craft in Florence, Pisa, and Antwerp. At the beginning of the 17th century, he was both a contemporary of Galileo and a devotee of Paracelsus. Sponsored by a Medici prince, he is best known for writing L'Arte Vitraria, the first book devoted to making glass from raw materials. Explore the cobbled streets of his hometown Florence, where his father served as court physician to the Grand Duke. Find out why it was not so strange for alchemy to be part of the education of a Catholic priest. Neri delighted European royalty with his glass formulations and artificial gems, but his interests ranged far wider. His work spanned the development of new medicines, attempts to make the fabled philosopher's stone, and to transmute metals. The quest to make gold was not a simple folly, it spawned the experimental techniques that underpin modern science. Here, for the first time, the disparate threads of Antonio Neri's life are gathered together and assembled into a colorful tapestry. And so there's a little explanation here of the Conciatore term. In the 16th and 17th century in Florence, a Conciatore was a specialist in alchemy who formulated glass from raw materials. It is possibly a corruption of the Venetian equivalent term Conzaor. So lots of insight here into what's going on in alchemical studies in the history of science. Lawrence Principe said it best. Alchemists were involved with making stuff. Like, that was why they were doing alchemy. You're going to get a whole lot of scholarship, but, one thing that I'd really wished to find was kind of more of a step-by-step, kind of beginner's look at the process of what they were making, right? How were the glass blowing tools and whatever all put together, and would have been nice to get more of an orientation in that. But there's just so much great stuff, so much historical detective work where we read about all the legwork our author has done to kind of reconstruct the mysteries of the life and times of our guy Antonio Neri. And I'm going to show you one really fun illustration out of the book that's kind of an interesting piece of evidence for my interest in alchemy and art history. If you look up here, right, we've got one of our alchemical flasks, and here's a little self-portrait of the author kind of coming out of the flask. Isn't that a trip? Here's a close-up on self-portrait on the other side of the page. So it's a pretty fun thing to look at, in my opinion. And here's another kind of cool illustration from one of the author's Hermetic books of alchemy. So, Conciatore, the life and times of 17th century glassmaker Antonio Neri. If you're interested in alchemy and the history of science, this is really a great place to look to see what's going on at the cutting edge of the field, what's happening with looking at the lives of these artisanal workers, the people who were making, laying the groundwork for the scientific revolution's application of instruments, and just the people who are getting their hands dirty with all that practical work. So hope you'll check it out. This shouldn't be the first book that you read on alchemy. Read somebody like Lawrence Principe or William R. Newman first. Secrets of Alchemy, Promethean Ambitions, a book like that would be better for getting you started. But this is going to refer you to all kinds of great scholarship where you can learn about glass making in the early modern period and how that was impacted by alchemy. Thanks for coming. I hope you'll click like or subscribe and all that sort of stuff. I do tarot readings. You can hit me up at ted.hand@gmail.com if you're interested. And happy to hear any feedback or what you'd like to see reviewed or anything you'd like me to discuss when it comes to esotericism and beat culture.